It appears that our decades-long Star Wars nightmare is about to be over. Cray cray, Kathleen Kennedy is finally going to be expelled from Lucasfilm as the president, and perhaps finally we can get some good solid Star Wars. Who would have thought 10 years ago when Disney bought Star Wars, they wouldn't be able to sell movies, they wouldn't be able to sell merchandise, not toys, not shirts, not nothing. They can't even sell amusement park rides anymore. They went out there, they put up the big bucks, but they decided to go in a new direction with Star Wars. They decided to cater Star Wars to a modern audience rather than to the Star Wars audience. It's been an enormous disaster. Supposedly, we're told that Andor is just this amazing show. It's the best thing they've ever produced. No one will watch it because no one cares. Only the most diehard of diehard Star Wars fans that can't accept what has happened under Kathleen Kennedy have actually stuck out for the long haul. And I think they're worse off for it because you've consumed an enormous amount of bad Star Wars in the past decade. It's been years now since we've had a movie, and with this big upcoming change that we're about to talk about, it's probably going to be another 3 or 4 years at least until we get an actual Star Wars movie. The information I'm going to talk about comes from an article on thedirect.com that covers, MCU, DCU, Star Wars stuff, and they're specifically referencing a conversation between like a Hollywood producer and Valiant Renegade talking about what was going on with Star Wars and Disney. And it appears Kathleen Kennedy has signed a severance package and is waiting to exit with a nice, enormous golden parachute in the not too distant future. After 10 years as Star Wars top dog, Kathleen Kennedy may be planning her Lucasfilm departure. The firing of Bob Chapek and other executives had given way to a wave of changes for the entertainment giant. A new rumor indicates that the president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, may be the next to leave, with Lucasfilm's longtime president rumored to have signed a severance package indicating her potential exit from the company. This is at least 4 or 5 years too late. As soon as they got word of what The Last Jedi was going to be, and they knew what Kathleen Kennedy actually greenlit and was putting out in theaters as a Star Wars movie, she should have lost her job immediately. Now, for the past few years, we have been inundated with rumors, behind-the-scenes speculation, that Kathleen Kennedy was about to leave the company. We've heard about it so many times. What makes this one a little bit different, not only do we have this conversation on Valiant Renegade, but there's other sources out there that are kind of saying the exact same thing. And it appears that it's coming from 4 or 5 different places. So it looks like this time it's actually going to happen. And I, for one, as a Star Wars fan, I will believe it when I see it, but I do think this is likely to happen, and this is the right change. It's just far too late. There's been so much damage done to Star Wars at this point. I think they paid $4.5 billion for Lucasfilm. What do you think Disney could sell Lucasfilm for nowadays? Maybe $2 billion? Maybe $2.5 billion? I wouldn't be surprised if the valuation on Lucasfilm has more than halved under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership and all the enormous mistakes she made with Star Wars. She did not care about the fans. She didn't understand the fans. And of course, she's also going to be ruining another longtime fan favorite franchise, Indiana Jones. So I guess that's going to be her farewell present from Disney to say, hey, you did a good job, kid. Now, we did hear like 3 or 4 years ago, they actually did want to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. They didn't like the direction of Star Wars, and they heard that Star Wars fans were not happy. They weren't spending money anymore. They tried to actually get rid of her, and what they found was Kathleen Kennedy had strategically placed so many people within Lucasfilm in positions of influence and power to where they were like irreplaceable, and they were all supporting her. And if they fired Kathleen Kennedy, they were all going to walk, and they didn't know what they were going to do. So they decided to extend her contract, give her an extension, even though she's failing, because she had the support of the people she strategically placed into Lucasfilm. And what happened? Disaster after disaster after disaster. Obviously, the biggest one is Solo, the only Star Wars film ever to not make money. I think even the Clone Wars animated movie, which absolutely sucks balls, actually was able to make a little bit of money. And the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus have not been hits either. They say Andor's good. No one cares that they didn't watch because they watched Book of Boba Fett, and that absolutely sucked, despite The Mandalorian being pretty okay. It's about time Kathleen Kennedy finally is going to be departing the company, but she is going to be much richer for leaving. Rumors indicate Kathleen Kennedy's departure will come after the fanfare for next year's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which stars legendary actor Harrison Ford. Apparently, she'll be allowed to quietly remain the head of Lucasfilm for a few more months, but her retirement will be announced after the film has been released. In light of this, estimates are that Kennedy could leave the company as early as July of 2023. And if rumors are to be believed, about $20 to $25 million richer for a job very poorly done. I don't know why they're rewarding her for her failure, but if it costs $25 million to get her out the door and get somebody that actually likes Star Wars in, which would be a good change, I think that $25 million, I guess it's well spent, but she certainly didn't earn it. She earned the firing, but she certainly didn't earn the golden parachute. Of course, we are hearing the reports that they filmed multiple alternate endings for this Indiana Jones movie, one of which, well, I bet it's more than one, where Indiana Jones is replaced by this Phoebe Waller-Cates, whoever that person is. Never heard of her in her life, but apparently she's going to be taking on the fedora and taking over for Indiana Jones at the behest of Kathleen Kennedy. This is really what she did. She went in there with an agenda, not to make money, not to entertain fans, not to put out the best Star Wars or Indiana Jones content possible. This is where she went wrong. She decided the Force needed to be female. Apparently, the female fans that Star Wars had weren't good enough. Star Wars needed to appeal to all females in order to be successful in the eyes of Kathleen Kennedy. Unfortunately, Star Wars is more of a male-dominated franchise, as is Indiana Jones. But the agenda is not over, folks, because they will be replacing Harrison Ford with a female version of Indiana Jones by the end of it. And she will have one last hurrah, one last FU to all the fans to let you know that she doesn't give a crap. Like I said, this lady should have been fired a long time ago. Bob Iger and Disney thought she had the pulse on the Star Wars fans. It turns out she had her fingers on the pulse of a dog turd and somehow kept it there for 10 years. Never learned anything. Never learned from her mistakes. Of course, this likely means, the good thing is, besides Kathleen Kennedy leaving, that Rian Johnson is likely done with Star Wars. Nobody else other than Kathleen Kennedy in their right mind would ever consider bringing Rian Johnson back to the franchise that he absolutely destroyed with The Last Jedi, in concert with Kathleen Kennedy, who is getting her severance package that she doesn't deserve, but she is getting the firing that she absolutely earned. At the end of the day, it is just one rumor in a sea of many, and Star Wars fans are fatigued with just how often headlines about Kathleen Kennedy's exit have circulated in recent years. It would certainly be a well-timed exit, and if the new Indiana Jones performs well, it will provide a golden moment to cap off a long and successful career in Hollywood. I would say the Direct.com are being a little too optimistic for the outlook of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This thing is going to flop harder than anything you could possibly imagine. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull absolutely sucked. I think it did turn a little bit of money, but people are onto it. They saw what happened to Star Wars. They've already witnessed one absolutely horrendous Indiana Jones movie, and they're not going to come back for a fifth helping. And this will be the ending Kathleen Kennedy deserves. She's going to go out in shame, in infamy. She should be shamed out of Hollywood for what she has done with her mismanagement, coming in with an agenda, and forcing Star Wars fans away from the franchise in millions. This used to be the cash cow, the golden goose, the apple of everyone in Hollywood's eye. You look at Star Wars like, wow, look at the longevity. Look at the money-making prospects. Look at the fan base. You could put out a terrible movie like The Phantom Menace or an even worse movie like Attack of the Clones, and they'll stick around. They'll stick around for anything. It turned out that wasn't true. You can put out The Last Jedi, and people will absolutely be revolted. They will walk out of theaters, and they will never come back. That is exactly what happened to Star Wars. But she does have one final FU to everyone in Hollywood and the fans of Indiana Jones. And hey, we've all heard the rumors. I talked about it in full. What's going on with Indiana Jones 5, the Dial of Destiny, whatever the hell they want to call that pile of crap, I'll just call it massive failure. I talked about it right here. The rumors that were coming out, the speculation that appears all to be absolutely correct, confirmed multiple times over the last few weeks. Definitely check this one out. If you don't see it here, there's also a link in the video description.